Hello everybody, welcome to a video all about Ultron Prime. For those that don't know, Ultron Prime is kind of a trophy champion. Well, he's a trophy champion because you have to go and do a piece of content first in order to obtain him. One thing that I really would wish that Kabam would do is really look to put more emphasis on these characters being used and being more effective, have more effective abilities, fun abilities, similar to the likes of Weapon X. That's a great example of a character that's kind of a sort of a trophy champion, was a trophy champion, now you can just get him for any other means. And Jessica Jones, which is not necessarily a trophy champion per se, I think you can get her from the banquet event. In any case, champions that you have to do something in order to achieve it, Ultron falls into the Thanos and Kang category of maybe not usable characters and champions within the ecospace of Marvel Contest of Champions. And a kind of follow up to this is that, can we make synergies to make this champion better? Are there synergies in place? Or is it definitely a champion down the line that you'd wish Kabam would kind of buff in some sort of way or make it unique for the player base? The champion setup does feel very much like you can have to have Suicide Mastery to do anything in any kind of like strength or form of damage. And let's face it, a 5-star version of a champion in the current meta is still not going to overly cut it, especially when there's other ones there that are able to damage more extensively. There's a lot of things that are going on for Ultron Prime. Like Armor Up is able to deal with doing offensive ability accuracy per stack. So if you get 4, then you're able to 100% shut down offensive ability accuracy, which isn't great to kind of like build up. It's very tough to do that. And that's going to be like one thing. Unfortunately, the champion in general, it doesn't have really like much in the way of abilities going for it. And that's disappointing, especially because we're going to look at like comic book history and kind of feel like, right, well, where could powers and abilities go better in a better direction compared with the likes of Ultron from Age of Ultron, film version that's currently the best one in game. A lot of the time will have to kind of focus on just doing blocking in order to get yourself a armor up, but the problem is like 25% chance. It's like, right, okay, that's fun, I guess. On basic attacks, you can do a poison. I like doing that because it does help for certain things, especially with the interactions and doing that as damage. There's some stuff in some axe where it does come into shape and form being good. But one of the great places is where Caustic Temper is a node. In Act 8.1.1, we do have Caustic Temper, so from a path clearing perspective, the champion can be used. I did feel that when I tested this out a moment ago for this video, that the damage through the block, but also the flare damage, does play into be a little bit more frustrating than others. So it's like, yeah, it's great to kind of build up stuff with Counter-Strike and as well with Subterfuge blocks, so you are able to build up some nice attack rating. It does feel like you are kind of at the whim and mercy of working very, very fast in order to build up the damage that you can do. It's great to be kind of like dealing with this as a point of like 50% chance to inflict a poison when struck and dealing 15% of attacker's max health over X amount of seconds. Additionally, if the attacker has no active fury buffs, the defender takes 90% less damage. So you have to kind of build that fury buff up quite easily, and there's a great synergy with Warlock in order to make sure you are poison immune, but also get a fury buff in order to act some damage out on the enemy. There's also 6.2.2. Now, an option always presents itself if you have yourself a Warlock. Warlock opens up this counter to Caustic Temper because you're able to get the fury buff, or if you've got a Heimdall on your team to put on Heimdall, and as well you have to have Hela or Angela to get that get the fury buff from when you intercede, swipe back, go into a block, and you get it. So having this kind of like all there does help out with Caustic Temper. I would say it's not the best option because one of the best options would be the likes of Warlock, because you're able to suppress the regeneration that the champion has. But if you do have yourself an SP2 rotation, you can get a heal block with Ultron Prime. It's not a great option, or is it SP2? I think, or special attacks. Yeah, special attacks, heal block. Yeah, so SP1 or SP2 with it. Obviously, if you're rotating around with those, especially with recoil, with the Suicide Masteries, it can be a little bit of kind of like a bugbear because you're like, oh great, well I am now taking damage and I'm not regenerating back. Let's now talk about damage. What I tried to do is put together a team. First of all, I went with a synergy team that was just very much playing into the champion, Nimrod, Modok, Warlock, of course, and stuff that's kind of like well known. Like Nimrod's gives a 50% chance to inflict a stun debuff. I tried that. I mean, look, it's effective to kind of like get the rotation there, but take it or leave it. You then got My World of Metal, which is the one with Ultron, which as each armor up buff reduces incoming stun debuff duration. I mean, that's sort of handy, especially if you're going up against certain nodes, but I don't think it's going to have like a great worth to it. Robot Uprising does whenever a teammate would receive a debuff they're immune to, they gain a fury buff, so that can be good on the offensive. That's the one actually we're talking about for this. And Singularity, which is that critical target function critical, all triggers function damage. So again, I mean, look, it's an okay one of an improvement, but it's not substantial enough that you would go, look, this is top rated. This is why I ended up changing the synergy to be very much like Odin with a pre-fight in order to kind of maximize the aptitude buff, and then add in Heimdall to intercede with Angela for another fury buff, so we kind of like get a bit more kind of like crunch and punch to his fury buffs, and just kind of like just general damage. And this is where, say, the damage wasn't really there. I was hoping for a lot more things. I think a lot of us kind of like, are hoping for a lot more things when we kind of like look at some old champions. The reason I obviously wanted to make this video was just to kind of showcase, which is on screen right now, the champion's potency, potential, and things like that. There's potential. It doesn't really completely 100% write off a champion by kind of like doing a video to go, he needs to get a buff. But this is the important thing about a champion that is not a worthless trophy champion, or kind of like a non-expansive ability and utility type champion, but a champion that is in a hard piece of content. Labyrinth of Legends is not easy when you come to it at a certain point. At some points you may come to it and go like, okay, this is easy. But with others, they may be coming to it first time and going, okay, I get a 5-star at the end of this. What's the potency? How potent is it? Is this a champion that, after my hard work in Labyrinth of Legends, is it worth taking up or doing anything further with? And under the current meta, whether or not you're thinking about, and look, we've got Battlegrounds. Since, say, 2016, where Labyrinth of Legends may have been entered in, we've since got things like Battlegrounds. We've got things like Axe that go a bit further and beyond. We've got 7-stars we face off against. 6-star versions of champions have already been released, like the likes of Scarlet Witch and such like. So you kind of look at the situation and go, this champion here has a potential to be a really good champion in game if Kabam were willing to then buff the champion up and give him a new ability kit that is completely far apart from the Age of Ultron version of Ultron, which we have in game at the moment. So yeah, let's have a look what Kabam could do or add to the character to make it stand out from the other Ultron and go in its own way, or add more things to it. I definitely like the thing that the character can do some types of, poisons of some kind of way. And imagine if it could do some kind of special type of nano poison type thing. It would be like a cool kind of like thing that they could add in. But go a bit further and beyond. Tractor beams. Imagine that. Imagine being able to kind of like grab something and kind of like put it there. It's a high frequency pulse magnetic gravitron particle containment field. Imagine if we could do something like that. Other beams, I don't know if they could change the beams that currently have in game, because it is there. Energy absorption. Imagine if the character was able to absorb something similar to the kinetic energy absorption that that the likes of Black Panther can do, except for when faced off with absorbing stuff. And yes, like we do have the other version, it does kind of like absorb energy, but it doesn't reflect back. Imagine if this version could reflect back something in some way. Also, imagine it being able to take on anything that's got any kind of like tech, or a new kind of thing of like hashtag robotics, or something like hashtag electrical, and it's able to interact with electrical based characters. Everything in game seems to have some kind of like technical means to it. Imagine if it could interact with that in some sort of a way. I definitely think the character needs to have an improvement with the evade. It's too jerky. When you play around with the champion, it jerks you really kind of like far back. At least with the other version, with the standard Ultron, or the Ultron Age of Ultron version, you know when it's coming, so you know how to prepare. The other one does not have that, which is a bit annoying. I personally find it annoying because you have to constantly have your thumb down on the block, because otherwise you're just going to just kind of like quickly go and you don't know when it's going to happen. You can't count those 7 seconds in your head. I also like this idea of like technoforming, and also I like this idea of transmode virus. As I said a moment ago, the idea of some sort of like poison type thing that's kind of like on a nano perspective that you can flux into an enemy. I'm just trying to think of like a good example. I think it's like the techno-organic virus that Warlock has, except for it does dot damage. I definitely think that'd be a cool thing. Techno-forming, imagine like throughout the fight the character could, with potentially combos, kind of like shift into some kind of different mode of the character, having upgrades of some things like, I don't know, blasters by combo number 200 or some other thing by another combo. Not saying combos are the way to do it. I'm just talking about maybe an idea of building something throughout the fight. So you're kind of building towards either changing to a particular mode, which would be cool, or adding a new upgrade. Size reduction, I don't know if that's really something that we would see. Size addition, maybe, I don't know. Entering other planes of existence, I think that's going to be a bit much, but definitely I feel like a lot of things could be done for the character just to kind of like, you know, improve things and have like little kind of like nods to stuff. Robotics, insect-like drones that could devour human flesh. Imagine, again, we talked about an idea of like some sort of like poisoning of nano on a nano basis. So there's definitely a lot more that Kabam could do with the character to take it away from the Age of Ultron version, because, you know, it's a character, isn't it, within this game? That something could be done more. Anyway, that's been a video. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought I'd do a little video on I wanted to do a video like this for a little while, but I kind of felt like when was kind of a good time, and I'm having a good time at the moment, just kind of like focusing on projects that I want to make. So, what are your thoughts on Ultron Prime? Put it in the comment section down below. And do you think this is a character you'd like to see have a buff, or are you just happy to just go like, it's trophy champion, take or leave it? Thoughts in the comment section. Thanks very much for watching. And also check out some other content which is located on screen right now, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye-bye.